sehen wie Spiegel, glatt und schwer. Züge schneiden Berge quer, Städte reden, aber fair. Alles sitzt, kein zu viel, kein mehr. Schweiß, kalt und klar, Schweiß.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. It's been a while. We're at episode 73. Just on my little Jack Russell back there, Louie. And I have a chocolate lab down here on the floor. Her name's Macy. I've been away. I went to Geneva, Switzerland, and I presented at the Ninth International Conference for Self-Determination Theory. And it was a gathering of researchers and practitioners from across the globe who believe in something called self-determination theory, which is all about human flourishing and how we live our best lives, and how through the basic psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, that we can achieve these things in our lives in many different spaces: academic spaces, business, health promotion, sports, mental health, all areas of our lives. And it teaches us that the more intrinsically motivated we are when we take actions from within, then we are more likely to find enjoyment and empowerment in the decisions that we make for our lives. So self-determination theory is the exact opposite of living in oppressive environments, right? It's about human flourishing and about human thriving. And it was a wonderful experience. I loved being in Geneva, Switzerland. I loved meeting people from across the globe, and I look forward to continuing to be part of that community. So welcome back to the PhD Journey Unplugged. I apologize for a little bit of a pause there, but I was out really learning and growing, and trying to find my more authentic voice out there in the world. And I'm here tonight to bring it back to you. So if you're tuning in for the first time, my name's Dr. Sarah Gordon. I'm a health and human performance leader, health promotion leader. I frame my work within self-determination theory, and my training is through Concordia University, Chicago, where I got my doctorate degree, and I have a bachelor's and master's degree from Towson State University. I launched this podcast a year ago, an idea after I got my PhD, and it's been an amazing experience. The guests I had on the show, they share their stories authentically with us to learn, and I'm so grateful for it all. So coming back from this trip overseas and getting to see so many different things and meeting so many different people and spending time with my son and his fiance, tonight just feels a little different. And I'll be honest with you, I was struggling a little bit to get back on track, because I feel like I've changed. I feel different about everything in my life tonight. And so I wasn't sure how to frame that within the podcast. And actually, I think it's a journey. I think that the PhD journey is about my journey, and it's about your journey, and how we move forward to become our more authentic selves in that journey. So I wrote down some notes to help me a little bit so I could remember my thoughts tonight. As you can tell, there's no guests joining me. I do have guests lined up through the summer, but tonight I just wanted to get on here, come back from my trip, share with you what I learned, and just share some thoughts that I have about it all. Just, be authentic with you about what the challenges I'm going through in my life and my journey, and hopefully it'll help you in some ways. So I'm not going to teach about research tonight. I'm not going to give you strategies to take away from tonight. We're just going to have a simple conversation. And it's one that I've been having with myself. I had it in Geneva. I had it on the plane. I've had it in the car. I'm just really trying to figure out what the next steps are for my life. And I hope that I can help you in some way too. And it's been a while since I just sat down to write something. So honestly, my life has changed so much. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say tonight, honestly, without getting into too many personal things. It's not because I don't have anything to say to you. It's just because maybe I have too much to say and I want to set boundaries on how much I share here through my podcast. But sometimes life changes so gradually, that we barely notice it. And then other times it changes so quickly that our minds just struggle to catch up. And I've had kind of both of those experiences lately with my mom aging, moving her into assisted living after being her caregiver for 10 years, and my identity as far as being a caregiver and watching those gradual changes um, that happen in aging, and to then just having loss, people in my life that just were in it and now out of it, and dealing with that loss. So I think that I'm maybe like you, I'm living in one of those seasons of just change and transition, and I'm trying to make sense out of it and find myself in all of that. Like I said, over the last several years, I've cared for an aging parent. I cared for my father who passed away from Alzheimer's disease. Care for my mom who's I would say aging just more naturally, but still challenges at 88. I spent more than a decade in a caregiver role. I completed my doctorate at 58 years old while I was caregiving. I launched a podcast in the last year, which has been an amazing experience, I should say. And just a short week and a half ago, I stood in Geneva, Switzerland, presenting my dissertation research at an international conference for the first time. And it was just an incredible experience. By almost every measure, this has been a remarkable season for me. And yet, I came home asking a question I never expected. Who am I now? Because I really don't know. I just don't know. Have you ever arrived somewhere where you worked incredibly hard to reach, only to discover that the view wasn't what you expected? Not because it wasn't beautiful, but because you suddenly realized you weren't sure where to go next. That's really how I feel tonight. So for so many years, my life was filled with the mountains, right? Finish the degree, care for my family, build the podcast, prepare for Geneva. There was always another summit waiting, another goal, another deadline, another challenge. Then something unexpected happened. Many of those mountains have disappeared, and not because I failed, because I climbed them. And suddenly I find myself standing in a place no one really talks about, the space after achievement. What do we do there? Who are we when we're no longer climbing? And I will say at this point, I don't really want to be pushed to climb anymore, right? I want to take some time and figure out what it feels like not to climb, you know, allow myself the space to not climb for a while. So one question that has stayed with me, maybe because I really honestly and all authentically, genuinely, truthfully, I don't have the answers tonight. I just don't. But I'm on here to maybe hopefully help you if you're struggling with something or you're in a space like I am in tonight. What do we fill with achievement, right? When we finally pause long enough to look at what we have achieved. I mean, sometimes I think, gosh, I haven't done enough. And then I think, well, wait a second, Sarah, you've just did all these things I listed, all these achievements, right? And maybe I'm struggling right now because I don't have something on my plate that I'm looking forward to achieve, right? I don't know. I really don't know. But as I'm on here tonight, thinking and sharing, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's a space that maybe some of us need to be in to grow, to grow more authentically to ourselves. When I was in Geneva and Vevey, I was in Vevey, Switzerland, and forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly. What a beautiful part of the world. Just outstanding. Um, I noticed something that really surprised me. People seemed comfortable. They were just sitting, they were talking, they were watching the water, they were sharing a meal, they were enjoying the moment. it was incredible. I just, wherever I was in Switzerland, whatever part of the country I was, it was such a different way to live, and it just impacted me greatly. People enjoying the moment. At first, I admired it. Then I realized I didn't know how to do it, right? I've been climbing so many mountains for so long, and I think our culture in the United States it encourages us to achieve, to climb, to push harder, to get stronger. My message on this podcast the last year has been about resilience and overcoming obstacles and pushing hard and hard and hard. And I saw something so different overseas. I saw people giving them the grace of time, and it was beautiful. I know how to strive, right? You can't get a PhD without striving. I know how to work hard and I know how to achieve. But simply being, just being in the moment, I felt really unfamiliar. And, maybe that realization is one of the greatest lessons I brought home. I think about when I got there, that first walk I took along Lake Geneva, it just all felt so a bit bohemian to me. And then in time, I thought, wow, this is just a way different reality of living life. Lately, I have found myself wondering, are there seasons of life, seasons for building, seasons for caring others, seasons for achieving, and perhaps seasons of becoming? Not becoming through accomplishment, but becoming through reflection. I have been told so many times in my life, Sarah, you're just a deep thinker. I'm not a deep thinker. Well, I am a philosophical thinker, and that is who I am, and I'm actually very comfortable with that. I think that when I go into new situations, such as being overseas, I love seeing the diversity in the global community. I loved seeing how in a lot of ways, even with that diversity, we're all very human. We're all very much alike. And so, why I tend to see things deeper and not just say, hey, they're in line getting ice cream. And I see something like, look at that father and that mother and their beautiful child and the laughter and the joy. And I don't know, maybe I see it the way I want to see it, but I do tend to see things deeper. I made a connection with a lady on the street. Her name was Marie. And the first night I saw her, I was there during a heat wave and she was homeless. And the first time I saw her sitting there, I didn't have anything to give her. And she's a beautiful woman. And on the way back, I had a ice cold, bottle of water and I handed it to her. And I don't know. I just, here I am in the midst of this beautiful city and this the human condition it doesn't that doesn't even really matter where you're at. Here was this woman. I don't know if she was a refugee. I don't know if she has mental health issues. I don't know what her story is, but I tried to show some kindness to her. And then the next night I went for a walk again and I saw her in a different location and I gave her a bottle of water again. And I shook her hand and I said, you're a beautiful woman and I just wish you all the best. Now, why do I share that? Because that's just kind of who I am when I go into spaces in the world and I see things that impact me. I try to make a difference. And I think that's part of my journey now that I've gotten past the achievement. And I'm finding who I am. I'm not a caregiver 100% of my time now, and I'm just becoming through reflection. So I've also started thinking differently about identity. And like I said, for years, my identity was connected to what I was doing. Doctoral student, caregiver for my parents, researcher, podcast host, presenter. But what happens when those roles begin to change? And that's where I'm tonight. And that's why I decided to come on here and share this with you. I mean, who remains underneath all of that? I don't know. I don't have the answers. Maybe that is one of life's greatest invitations. not to discover what we do, but to discover who we are. One thing I know for certain, the journey changes. It changed for me drastically yesterday. And you have choices in your life to figure out how to move forward. And with some help with some really great friends and some introspection, I'm here tonight, getting back on my feet, sharing my message of hope, sharing my message of through self-determination theory, of thriving, of becoming who God created you to be, and feeling confident in that journey. The journey always changes, right? I started this podcast a year ago, right out of my doctoral program, and I was very focused on what the PhD journey did to me and all the lessons that it taught me. Tonight, my journey is much different. I'm on a in a place in my life, perhaps I'm in the valley between the mountains, not necessarily a valley where there with depression, a valley of just kind of it's okay to give yourself some space to just to breathe, to live, to think. I mean, when I was in Vevey, Switzerland, it was Lake Geneva. I guess you could say it's in a valley. It was surrounded by mountains. And there was so much life there, and so much love, so much laughter, music, food, restaurants, people sitting together, eating, enjoying food, walking, exercising, biking, running, swimming, paddleboarding. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to see. So the journey changes, and maybe we're supposed to change with it, right? Not by abandoning who we've been, but allowing life to gently reshape us. And that's exactly what happened to me overseas in this trip. I have come home really a different person. So I'd like to leave you today with some questions, okay? I've been thinking about them myself. I don't have all the answers tonight, and I'm not expecting you to have the answers for your life because I think these questions are worth thinking about. They take time, right? Who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? What fills the space after achievement? I don't have those answers tonight, and perhaps you don't either. Am I climbing this mountain because it is truly mine? If you're still climbing some mountain right now, make sure it's because it's where you want to be and not doing it for somebody else. Okay? When was the last time I rested without feeling guilty? I have to tell you, being overseas, seeing so many people resting, laying on greens, reading books, you know, it was nice to see. And I thought, my goodness, I don't know the last time I did that and did that without feeling guilty. So ask yourself that. When's the last time you've done that? And what if the season isn't asking us to achieve more right now, but simply to notice more? And that's what I shared the story about the lady on the street. I noticed her and all the beauty I saw overseas. I still think about her and I noticed her. Perhaps the greatest victories are not only found at the finish line, perhaps they are found in the quiet moments afterwards. And I've talked on this podcast about the journey to the finish line, right? The lessons you learn to the finish line. It isn't always the finish line that gives us the greatest satisfaction. It's everything that we learn on that path to that finish line, whatever that finish line is. If it's an Ironman, if it's an academic achievement, if it's any type of goal that you have for your life. I've talked about it often about the journey to the finish line. And the finish line is rewarding, don't get me wrong. It feels good. But what I'm talking about tonight is really after the finish line. What do you do? And I can't answer that tonight for myself. I really just don't know. And if you're in that space too, I hope you'll continue on the journey with me as we discover this together. The moments when we begin discovering the person the journey was shaping all along is where we're going to find perhaps our authentic selves. So I want to leave you with some more questions. I invite you to think about them and use your own curiosity, your own vision, your own journey, because there's no way for me to know what journey you're on. But think about these for yourself and for your life, okay? There are no right or wrong answers, and they don't have to come to you immediately. Perhaps one of these questions will meet you exactly where you are today. I know they have met me at this moment of change on my journey. I want to say that I'm grateful for each of you for the presence in this community. It's grown at a pace that, I get emails all the time. I can grow your podcast to thousands of people and blah, blah, blah. But I love the pace. I feel like the people who are listening genuinely want to be here, and I get feedback from some of them. I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate that you find value in what I have to teach and educate and share on this platform. So thank you for that. So here are some questions, okay, to think about for yourself. Who am I becoming in this season of my life? That's a big one. Who am I becoming in this season of my life? What fills the space after achievement? Am I pursuing what truly matters to me or simply continuing to climb because I don't know how to stop? Boy, I have felt that before. When was the last time I allowed myself to rest without feeling guilty? What part of my identity am I holding on to that no longer serves who I am becoming? Is this season asking me to achieve more or to notice more? It's a good one. What relationships deserve more of my attention than my accomplishments? Where have I experienced quiet joy recently that I almost overlooked? If I stopped measuring my worth by productivity, what would remain? And herein is the part that I'm struggling with because I've been on the treadmill for a long time and I saw a way different way to live. And now I need to figure out how to move forward. What would it look like to trust the journey before I understand where it is leading me? Boy, if you follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook. I have the PhD Journey Unplugged Facebook page. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Sarah Gordon. I have a personal Facebook page. I post to my stories all the time. I post things about that all the time, about the path forward. You know, there's no way we can possibly know what the future looks like. We can't possibly know what that next step, those next two steps, where it's leading us sometimes. Sometimes we just have to have blind faith. Sometimes we just have to trust that next step. But if you think about the things that I'm talking about tonight, if we're truly aligned with things that bring us purpose and meaning in our lives, then pretty much, we're gonna well, I don't know. There are bumps in the road, believe me. There are curveballs and all those other things that hit us along the way. But you got to move forward, right? You can't go back. You got to move forward one way or another. So move forward with confidence, okay? And I love this thought that um, I will tell you, in all honesty and transparency, I have sat down with ChatGPT for like the last year. We talk, I talk about my podcast episodes. I give my own thoughts, and it really helped me tonight. I really was struggling, and I really put in a lot of information to try to figure out what the message was that I wanted to share tonight. So while I had that help as a tool, this is my authentic voice that I'm sharing with you tonight. And I love this question or this thought. Perhaps the most meaningful questions in life are not meant to be answered in a single day, right? Sometimes we want the answers right away. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes they're meant to be carried until life gently reveals the answer. And that's the space I'm in right now. I want to thank you for walking this journey with me. This podcast will always be about lifelong journeys, about the process of becoming. I will always have people on the show who demonstrate to us how they've done this in their lives, who have chosen to take actions in their lives, live self-determined lives, and work towards achieving their best lives. As I learn more about self-determination theory, I want to say one thing that I've learned is that lasting motivation comes from something deep within, okay? Living in alignment with who you are. And so that's the goal, is to think about your life and understand that you can take actions to move your life in the direction that you want for your life, right? I took the action to go back to get my PhD. I'm now rethinking what post PhD life feels like, and how do I find quality of life now as I approach 60, and what feels aligned to my authentic self. So that's what I challenge you to think about, those things too. Listen, we all have the reality of responsibilities of bills and all our day-to-day, responsibilities. I'm not saying like not be a responsible human being, but think about the things that you have in your life, and do they fulfill you in a meaningful way? Okay. I like to close with a thought from a poet that I heard this quote, and I just think it's it's perfect for me tonight, and I hope that it helps you in some way. Be patient towards all that is unresolved, unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Let me read that again because I love that. Be patient towards all that is unresolved and unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. So here I am. I went to Geneva. I was scared to go. I talked about it podcast episodes ago. I was nervous to give the presentation. I had so much, there was so much unknown in that journey and those steps forward on that path, right? There's no way to know. And I went, and it was an amazing experience. And I changed, and I'm back. And I'm here with you on episode 73 to tell you that, you know, life life is a journey, and we get to choose to write the story that we want on that journey. All right. Well, until next time, I actually Friday, or in a few days, I'm going to have a guest on the show. We're going to get back to kind of the format that I've had, even though my questions might be a little different to my guests now. I might challenge them to think about the things that I'm thinking about tonight as they share their stories, and as we continue on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I want to say to you, keep finding your strength. I always say strength for the journey within. What that means is that finding purpose and meaning and strength from within, not from external, not extrinsically motivated things that we don't have the control over, somebody telling you to do something, somebody giving you a reward to do something. Find the meaning from within. Okay, that's what self-determination theory is all about. That's the conference I went to. I am very much excited to be a part of the community. Our next conference will be in Quebec, Canada. It's every 3 years. I'm looking forward to being a part of it again. But between now and then, we will use this as a living laboratory to put in place self-determination theory, and for me to remind you always to take actions in your life and live your best life, okay? And that's what I got tonight. This was a bit of a struggle for me to get on here tonight, and to just given some of the things I'm going on in my life. And but I wanted to do it. I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to share with you what I learned overseas. I met people from every part of the world. I can't even list them all. I mean, I can Hong Kong, New Zealand, Australia, um, Helsinki, Israel, Argentina, the United States, I don't know, Spain, Greece, everywhere, Poland, Russia, did I say Argentina? Um, you name it, they were there. These were researchers and practitioners. And they all came together to present and to share and to move the narrative forward on how do we live our best lives and how do we encourage human flourishing across the globe. I will tell you that Viktor Frankl was mentioned often, and stories of oppression and oppressive governments, oppressive regimes. And self-determination theory is the exact opposite of oppression. And, we have so many examples in history where people have been oppressed. But even in those moments, the human spirit wants to be free. Viktor Frankl, in his book, The Man's Search for Meaning, is a great example of how he found those opportunities, even within the most oppressive environments. So I strongly recommend that book if you're searching for deeper meaning in your life too. All right, everybody. As always, I'm so grateful to have this platform to educate and motivate on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I hope you will continue to share this journey with me. I wish everybody so many blessings and good health. Your health is your wealth. All right, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
Sehen wie Spiegel, glatt und schwer. Züge schneiden Berge quer. Städte reden, aber fair. Alles sitzt, kein zu viel, kein mehr.